I am Heidi Benjaminson, your host of Confidence Coaching, a podcast for mothers of teenagers who want to feel less worry and more peace. Life isn't a spectator sport. Success comes to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and a little sparkle. I'm glad you're here. Hello. Welcome to episode 108, Processing versus Numbing Emotions. I am glad you're here. I can't believe this year is almost over. I know we're all probably saying that this time of year. Christmas music is on the radio, and y'all, my husband cannot be happier. It's his favorite thing. This year, I'm a little more excited for the holidays than usual. Maybe that's what happens when our children start leaving the house. More anticipation of that time together. I don't know. Let's see. Today's podcast topic comes as follow-up to several client coaching sessions where my clients had the exact same question, and I realized I need to do a podcast episode talking about this. Here it is. When I feel something really negative, mainly loneliness or nervousness or sad, and I do things to distract myself, when are these distractions healthy ways to process emotions? And when am I numbing and buffering in an unhealthy way? So I'm going to share one simple way to tell the difference after I explain a few foundation principles to our emotions. So backing up a bit, I want to explain that a full human emotional life is going to have positive and negative emotions in it. We need the contrast. We need the opposition so we can appreciate and have the fullness. We need to experience bad to understand what good is. A life without grief would also be a life without joy because we wouldn't know the opposite. Our lower brain, though, is still operating with survival caveman type instincts and wants us to seek pleasure and avoid pain at all costs, thinking that our lives may be in danger. And this brain thinks emotional pain is the same as physical pain. It isn't, though. A patient yelling at us isn't the same as a tiger chasing us. Getting a rejection letter is not the same as a lion chasing us. Our lower brain on default, without us managing it, will make us think so, though. Our world has evolved so quickly in the last century, and specifically the last decades, where we now have copious ways to find instant pleasure. Lots of quick dopamine hits and other artificial or false and instant rewards. This could be with food or excess shopping or pornography or just social media or any other media. Our world today has evolved so we're afraid to feel emotional pain, and literally at our fingertips, we can escape real life, which means we aren't really living our true human and emotional life. Luckily, we all have a prefrontal cortex, a higher confident brain that can manage this lower brain, that can manage the desires and emotional reactions of the lower brain. This brain is able to be the watcher of these thoughts, can question them, and see there's another way to handle our emotions. This is the work I do every single day with clients, and it's so fulfilling. It's the personal mental work I do daily on myself and with my coach. And the biggest part of the work we do is feel our negative emotions. Instead of looking to chocolate chips to numb us from the pain for 15 seconds. This work is actually allowing emotions in our body, realizing their vibrations, getting good at identifying where we feel them, how long they'll last in a certain part of our body, relaxing into the emotions and letting them pass when they are ready. I help clients do this, and two things happen. First, they realize these emotions do possibly hurt. They don't feel good. They also realize the emotions won't kill them. In fact, by taking ownership and realizing we each create our own emotions with what we're thinking or with our lower brain survival reaction to the world, we have more control. So these negative emotions actually pass quicker than if we resist them or feel like someone else is creating them. So when we buffer or numb ourselves to these emotions like drugs do, we then don't feel them, just like what drugs do. We want Novocaine when we're having a tooth extracted. We don't need that, though, when we find out our teenager has tried drugs or is dropping out of high school or wrecked the car. When real life happens, we need to feel these emotions instead of seeking the false emotional pain relievers. It's tempting to do this, and based on the fact that liquor stores were never closed in Massachusetts in the pandemic, I know this solution is very popular. And I sought this solution with food for years. I get it. The problem is when we buffer and numb, we create more net negative in our life. So we start out with something negative, and instead of feeling that hurt and progressing through it, we use something like excess food or some sort of excess to avoid the pain. And because of what we did, we now have not only not felt the original pain, we have more negative in the form of gaining weight or hangovers or addictions or debt or broken relationships because we use work to avoid conflicts at home. When I sought ice cream or sweets or food to cover the discomfort of my life, I didn't actually learn to feel the discomfort. And I added to it with the negative thoughts about my body, about my overeating. I added more insecurity. I added health issues on top of the discomfort in other areas. So the result of my actions is what proved I was buffering and numbing. So I knew this was unhealthy buffering and processing because of the result. Did you hear that? The result I created and the fact that I wasn't making progress. I wasn't moving closer to positive emotions. Sure, there was false, temporary pleasure in Outback cheese fries. This just isn't lasting happiness, and it's trying to solve an internal problem with an external solution. So, with this said, there are healthy ways to process our emotions that are other than just lying on the couch for days until the sadness passes, because sometimes it's not going to pass that quick. Many emotions are going to be with us for a lot longer than that. We can do things like go for a walk when we're feeling low or in a funk, calling a friend to chat, taking a bubble bath, cleaning some drawers in the kitchen, reading a book, or more. All of those things are healthy and they're helping us make progress. We know they're healthy ways because when we're done with them, we've made progress with our emotions and we don't have a bigger negative in our life. So the result of the actions, the result of what we do, is what tells us if it's a healthy way of dealing with the emotion or not. This requires each of us to take stock of what we're feeling and objectively use our judgment about what we'll be creating for ourselves. Going out for a walk and listening to a book or a podcast or music would be a very healthy way to deal with stress or anxiety or lots of emotions. But if you always go out for a walk when your spouse wants to have an uncomfortable discussion that you know you need to have, leaving isn't the healthiest way to deal with it. In this case, you're avoiding and resisting. But usually doing something active will be a very healthy way to process emotions. You can almost never go wrong with being more active. I remember being very stressed and nervous before a big presentation I was doing. I was conscious of the desires my lower brain would have for me to eat more, especially sweets and salty food. But I knew this was going to make me physically and emotionally just much worse. I had lived that net negative for a long time. That would have been buffering. So I made peace with the fact that I'd be feeling some of this nervousness. And I also gave myself healthy solutions to distract myself, not in a numbing way. I made sure that I had a few good books to read as the presentation date came. I made sure that I didn't stop my exercising. I continued to do all of the uncomfortable work of preparing and practicing for the presentation. The nervousness came along, and I didn't make it mean that anything had gone wrong. I knew this was a sign I was doing something courageous. I also had friends on speed dial. I probably organized a few closets that week. These are all healthy, positive results. They didn't create more negative for myself. I reminded myself over and over, food is not a solution for anything other than hunger. And I visualized myself that day feeling healthy and full of energy, and I made choices each day that would benefit that future version of myself. Even an occasional ice cream cone with friends when you're feeling really low, it isn't bad, but it's only if it's done in moderation. Maybe even 5 minutes of social media to distract you from your mind spinning in anxiety as you wait for a doctor to call. It isn't necessarily bad. In both of these cases, the result isn't a net negative. We have to get real with ourselves, y'all, about the compounding effects of our actions and maybe our avoidances and inactions and where we're creating more negative. And also realize it's okay to bring these emotions along while we also do pleasurable things like watch a TV show or clean a room or go for a bike ride or do some online Christmas shopping or food prep for the upcoming week. Yes, we're getting our brain and body active, focusing on something else, and we're creating positive results. Each of those things can also be done with our negative emotions coming along like small handbags next to us. They'll be there with us, but they aren't driving the car. And with the other parts of our day, these emotions may lessen as we learn to feel them and do productive and creative and healthy activities. So, healthy processing of emotions won't just be lying on a bed or on your couch until it passes completely. We may have to do that in extreme situations, and I've definitely had to do that a few times, mainly so I could emotionally move from feeling out of control to a more controlled sense, getting my higher brain back online. More often though, the healthy processing looks like identifying what I'm feeling, reminding myself that I'm creating that feeling with what I'm thinking. It isn't anyone else's responsibility. And also being okay with that emotion. We don't want to use processing emotions in quotes as an excuse to not show up in life. We need to be reasonable and make ourselves the hero of our lives. If you're feeling sad and lonely on a Friday night and some girlfriends call and ask you to go to dinner, go with them. Don't use the excuse you're going to stay home and feel your loneliness. Often our emotions need to be validated, and we then realize we have the power to change them and pivot very quickly. The emotions that won't pivot quickly just need to come along with us. As my children leave the nest, it's faith and uncertainty and vulnerability. Those emotions are coming with me. My second child is applying to colleges. We're uncertain where he'll go next year. I can't lie on the couch until those emotions pass. Instead, I see them, I'm okay with them, I'm owning them, and I don't put them on him to carry. I do things that are always benefiting my future self, like exercising and planning healthy meals and spending time with friends and volunteering to help my community. Yes, it may feel at times like I'm distracting myself, but the result I'm creating at the end is positive and it's helping me move through the emotions. So I challenge you to identify 1 or 2 ways you can process and deal with the negativity in your life while creating something more positive. Doing physically active things will always be healthier than non-physical ways. Our bodies need to move, and the more we can move the cortisol and stress hormones through our bodies, the better. We don't need to remove ourselves from real life to feel emotions. We just want to find more productive ways to deal with emotions, ways that help us make progress and ultimately create more positive in life versus creating more negativity in our lives. This is one reason the coaching model I help clients understand is so impactful. Knowing and owning and taking responsibility for the results that we're creating is where our power lies, and we can change all of it when we're ready. That's it for this week. If you would like personalized, weekly, private one-on-one coaching to help you know how to be emotionally anchored no matter what, sign up for a consult call at HeidiBenjaminson.com. A confident mother is the greatest gift to her family, not a perfect mother. Our families want us to feel confident, anchored, and calm. I can help you uncover this version of yourself. Have a great week.